So, folks, I know things are pretty bad right now as far as where the state of free speech is right now, where the state of democracy is right now under the Trump second administration. I know that we are teetering in a number of different ways on people going absolutely nuts in a variety of different directions. But I do want to preface this by saying power, like actual real power, doesn't like seek your approval, you know? Power does not need to control speech in this way. Why am I talking about this? I've kind of skipped through this. So earlier today, like a few hours ago, it came out that ABC is firing or putting Jimmy Kimmel on an indefinite hiatus. This follows a string of other late-night comedians either losing their shows or being fired, and all of them have a history of battling against the Trump administration and making jokes that the administration doesn't like. And, you know, a lot of people have pointed out, like, oh man, how hypocritical of the conservative movement. Like, you know, one day they're free speech absolutists, and the next day they're cheering on the president using his authority and office in order to pressure a comedian into getting fired. Wait a minute, doesn't this explicitly violate the First Amendment? Yes, it does. This is actually a violation of the First Amendment. This is actually government power silencing criticism and speech. That is actually what this is. This is not cancel culture in the sense of like, oh, people on Twitter didn't like your idea and then they made fun of you for it or made good faith criticisms about it. This is actually the government is trying to shut down dissent. And that is worrisome for anyone who actually has a principled stance on this, right? And what we're rapidly finding out is that a lot of conservatives don't actually have this principled stand. What they have is the veneer of principles and a true dedication to nothing but team sports. You know, as long as their enemies suffer, everything is fine. As it doesn't even matter if their constitutional rights get violated, as long as they can look at somebody else's constitutional rights being violated even more. And a lot of this is being catalyzed around the assassination of Charlie Kirk, right? You know, it started out like in the immediate aftermath of the assassination that there was a website, and we took a look at it here on stream, titled Charlie Kirk's Murderers. And it had basically people in the conservative movement going around and collecting information and data for basically not sufficiently mourning Charlie Kirk's death, right? And this website labeled them all murderers for, you know, being happy or just expressing themselves as they will. Now, should someone celebrate a political assassination? Probably not. Should there be a concerted movement to, like, suppress that type of speech? I don't think so, not in a free and fair society. When we are talking about this, it's important to know that these people, from the get-go, from the jump, were looking for a political fight. We're looking to cynically use Charlie Kirk's death as a way to catalyze the violence that they had long sought, right? The Charlie Kirk's Murderers website was taken down and rebranded as the Charlie Kirk Data Foundation, and largely because whoever was running this realized that, oh wait, running a website that posts all of the personal information of people we just don't like is actually very illegal and opens us up to an incredible amount of legal liability. So they have tried to, hide it a little bit better. But that being said, it didn't just stop there, obviously. You know, this campaign grew in size, and it became anyone in the world of, academics. You know, if there was a professor who didn't sufficiently, whip their backs with brambles and cry tears of blood over Charlie Kirk's death, they lost their jobs. It's pretty interesting, really, how this has all played out. Journalists have lost their jobs. One of the journalists in particular is named Karen Atiah. For the record, my posts were not even about Kirk directly, but about America's apathy towards political violence and the coddling of white male shooters and hate peddlers. I was fired because I mentioned race, white men, and violence. That was my gross misconduct. And, keep in mind that the people who are throwing an absolute hissy fit tantrum about a mention of, white men and violence together in the same sentence are the same people who every single day that they go online post statistics about black male violence. And they do it all the goddamn time without blinking an eye, but the second they see someone talk about violence and white men in any kind of proximity to each other, oh man, all bets are off. We gotta get that bitch fired. That's crazy. That's a crazy double standard. That's crazy. And, it escalated even further. We had students being expelled from college campuses. From college campuses, mind you, that had state lawmakers pass legislation to protect free speech on college campuses. But the second someone posts a video that is less than grossly coddling of Charlie Kirk's reputation, well, they can no longer get an education. No, can't have that. It's quite interesting. Because none of these people believe anything except for team sports. There was just someone posting in my chat about how, you're all just lucky we aren't shooting all of you. Meaning, the political, presumably the political left. Anyone from liberal to communist to anarchist. This is what they believe. They are naked about their beliefs. And, you don't have to, dig that deep to find the absolute blatant hypocrisy and double standards that they themselves are willingly ready to express. And, we are so far beyond really the point of really talking about hypocrisy is that we're so past that point because they know they're hypocrites. They know they're being hypocritical. They are using hypocrisy. They have weaponized it, and many of them know that they are outright lying or spreading misinformation. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 20.
I desperately want to see surrounding.
Tier 1 subs.
One birthing person vs 20 OBGYNs.
I think they just call that a hospital. I think that's just a hospital. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 20 tier 1 subs. Worryingly close to our sub goal. I'm getting a little nervous now. These people are being sincerely misled, though. I think Ashton believed what he was saying, sadly. Well, yeah, but let me be clear. They are sincere, but they're sincerely using the hypocrisy, right? When these people come in and they're like, oh man, you're just lucky we're not killing all of you, they're being sincere. I do believe them when they say that. It's a power game to them. It's not cynical when someone like that is coming in here and saying things like that. But what I am saying is that we are beyond them giving a single shit about hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is something that people in a civilized society care about. A consistent set of beliefs, a consistent set of rhetoric and ideas that logically flow from one thing to the next. In a society that values those things, hypocrisy matters. But we are in a post-truth society. We are in post-fact world. What's the sub-goal for? Apparently, there's just an awful Piers Morgan segment that involves just insane folks. It's truly a terrible apotheosis of rot. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that pointing out the hypocrisy is no longer going to work. You know? It's no longer going to work. And I'm going to finish this segment before I fulfill some of these promises I've made you guys, because otherwise it'll be difficult. But here's the post that Karen Atiah was fired over. Karen, I'm writing to inform you that the Post is terminating your employment effective immediately for gross misconduct. Your public comments on social media regarding the death of Charlie Kirk violate the Post's social media policies, harm the integrity of our organization, and potentially endanger the physical safety of our staff. Among other requirements, the company-wide social media policy mandates that all employee social media postings be respectful and prohibits postings that disparage people based on their race, gender, or other protected characteristics. The policy also reminds employees that everything they post is a reflection on the company and should not affect the integrity of the Post's journalism. Your postings on Blue Sky, which clearly identifies you as a Post columnist, about white men in response to the killing of Charlie Kirk do not comply with our policy. For example, you posted, quote, refusing to tear my clothes and smear ashes on my face in performative mourning for a white man that espoused violence is not the same as violence, unquote. And, quote, part of what keeps America so violent is the insistence that people perform care, empty goodness, and absolution for white men who espoused hatred and violence, unquote. For those posts, specifically, she got fired from her job as a journalist. Specifically, she was like one of the opinions editors. Like, her job was to give opinions on, like, race relations in America. That's crazy. Like, I feel like an upcoming Walter Masterson bit is, like, him literally, like, going out there and smearing ashes on his face. And, like, it's still not going to be enough for conservatives, you know? Because, again, there will never be a point where they are satisfied with performative action. There will never be that point.
The Washington Post was already embarrassing, but I think it's officially died in darkness.
Well, Paladin, with the 21 subs, thank you so goddamn much, folks. And already you have all sufficiently scared me that I did not make this dono goal too absurdly high. And I'm getting worried that you are going to force me to cover that absolute brain rot segment. Which, you know, in a way, lightens the load for me a little bit. Like, today's been rough, news-wise. Jimmy Kimmel was canceled for what? Well, that's an excellent question, because Jimmy Kimmel was apparently canceled for the following. Quote, many in MAGA land are working very hard to capitalize on the murder of Charlie Kirk. Unquote. On Monday, J.D. Vance, who once called Trump America's Hitler, hosted Kirk's podcast from the White House and blamed the left without evidence. Said Vance, while our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies, it's a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left. And by statistical fact, he means complete bullshit, Kimmel corrected. In fact, the Department of Justice removed from its website a study finding that violence from far-right groups is the greatest source of domestic terror and extremist violence in the U.S. Here's a question J.D. Vance might be able to answer. Who wanted to hang the guy who was vice president before you? Kimmel said. Was that the liberal left? Or the toothless army who stormed the Capitol on January 6th? The president and his henchmen are doing their best to fan the flames so they can, I guess, attack people on the dangerous left, Kimmel added, noting the incongruence with the right's former vision of so-called snowflake liberals. Which is it? He wondered. Are they a bunch of sissy pickleball players because they're too scared to get hit by tennis balls? Or are they a well-organized army of commandos? Because they can't be both, right? And there was another quote, just a very, very small one about Charlie Kirk, which ABC is trying to claim is the quote that got him fired. Let me pull that up real quick. Yeah, here we go. The uproar started after Kimmel said suspected Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson was a MAGA Republican. We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. Like, that's what he said, right? Like, I'm sorry, if that was too fucking edgy for you, like, even if you disagree with it, that's too edgy for you. That's where you draw the line. Man, conservatives are such weak pussies. Which I shouldn't say, because I like pussies. You know? But, like, they're just so... it does a disservice, really, to pussies. Conservatives are so fucking weak, man. So fucking spineless. Oh, comedy is legal now. Well, I guess not. Hey, remember when, like, a bunch of mainstream news outlets, like, ran stories following Trump's inauguration about how, like, oh, look, we can say retard now. We can say all the slurs. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Jimmy got his start with Juggy Girls on trampolines with Adam Carolla.
Right? You're right. I apologize to the pussies of the world, because truly they are magnificent and I love them. It is just truly wild to me. Yeah, comedy is legal, but not like that. Exactly, Rat Scallion. Excellent username, by the way. Well, no, it's not even like about the comedy. It's not even about being edgy assholes without consequence, because they want consequences, just not for themselves, right? They want to punish anyone who is not them. Anyone who is them, you know, gets a free pass for a while until that type of person becomes the outgroup, right? I think they meant free to say any slur, not critique the government. Well, but the thing is, they're right, like they're also wanting to critique the government, right? Like, Charlie Kirk is the martyr of the moment, and they are talking about, like, how great Charlie Kirk was, the incredible work he did, and, like, we watched through his body of work, and it was nonstop criticism of the government, you know, of different government policies. And now they want to make that illegal for other people. It truly is crazy. And I want to emphasize again, this comes from a position of weakness. This comes from a position of desperation. This comes from someone who desperately wants to distract from, like, the incredible, unending amount of weakness that undergirds everything that this administration does. And, like, I'm sorry, this isn't normal. Comcast executives warn workers to not say the wrong thing about Charlie Kirk. An email sent to NBC Universal employees, including journalists at NBC, MSNBC, CNBC, Bravo, and more, eulogizes Charlie Kirk as an advocate for open debate and reminds staff that even milquetoast statements about Kirk's death can result in their firing. This is... I'm sorry. This is anti-American. This is anti-American. People who act like this are traitors to the very idea of America. They bring shame upon every single veteran who has fought and died for our rights. They bring shame upon every single person who believes in the possibility of this country. They do not believe in America. What they believe in is dictatorship, where they get to torture and punish people they dislike. And when you really think about it, that is indistinguishable from many classical depictions of hell. These are people who want to recreate a personal hell for themselves and others here on Earth. And they're doing their damnedest to make it happen. You know, you can open up the pages of Dante's Inferno and you find scenes playing out exactly like these people who come into my chat day after day. I see you, conservatives. I see you guys with your threats, talking about what you want to do to me. This is not hyperbole on my part. I see it happen every single day I go live. Every single day I do research on an upcoming segment. It's psychopathic, traitorous nonsense. LARPing as an actual political ideology. So, of course, it gets worse. You know, like everyone on the right these days, oh, well, conservatives would never speak in such, you know, hyperbolic terms about calling people fascists. That's just what got Charlie Kirk killed. Hey, Jack, do you get threats in your DMs? Yeah. I get, like, rape and death threats in my DMs. I've told the story numerous times about how someone went into my DMs and threatened to burn me alive and rape me. And then I found his mom and let her know what he was doing? I tell this story often, but I get a lot of those death and rape threats. I just don't talk about it a lot because what is to be gained for me talking about it? But here's just a small compilation of Donald Trump calling the American left fascist.
American politics today is between these far-left fascists led by Harris and her group. We have a fascist person running who's incompetent. She's a Marxist, communist, fascist, socialist. She's not actually a socialist. She's gone past that. Somebody's got to explain this woman. There's a radical left Marxist, communist, fascist.
You know, and that's just like a small sampling of times Trump has said that. You know, like it's by no means comprehensive. Charlie Kirk was calling for Joe Biden to be executed. And while they do all this, right, while they fearmonger constantly, here's Speaker of the House Mike Johnson.
Do you get the sense there is some real soul searching on both sides of the aisle about how we got here?
I think there is. I've spoken to a lot of members on both sides of the aisle, and there's this recognition that, you know, people have got to stop framing simple policy disagreements in terms of existential threats to our democracy and all these phrases you hear all the time. You can't call the other side fascists and enemies of the state and not understand that there are some deranged people in our society who will take that as cues to act and do crazy and dangerous things. And that's what we've seen in increasing frequency. So members of Congress and all public officials have an obligation to speak clearly into this and calm the waters. We can have vigorous disputes. I mean, Charlie Kirk was an expert at that. He loved debate. But Charlie also advanced another really important idea, and that is that he loved the people on the other side of that table. He was never motivated by hate. He was motivated by truth. And
by the way, I literally put out a 3-hour-long video of predominantly just Charlie Kirk's own words from his own show. It's over 3.5 hours long, or it's about 3.5 hours long, of just Charlie Kirk talking. You know, with some interjections and contextualizations from me. Mike Johnson's version of this man is bullshit.
Love. And that's what we have to do. That's who we are as Americans. That is follows the best of our Judeo-Christian traditions and heritage and our civil society, and we have got to get back to that.
When you talk, do you get the sense?
It's truly, I mean, it's truly disgusting. And I do want to point out here, like, we're getting into, like, a new era, like, new levels of hysteria here. And this might seem like a bit of a departure in an unrelated direction, but just a couple days ago, yesterday, actually, Michigan's, like, a certain far-right sector of, like, Michigan's legislature introduced a new law to ban all porn in the state of Michigan. You know, obviously, this is relatively fringe. I believe it's being introduced by the same faction that tried to introduce a ban on, like, gay marriage, like, late last year, that failed utterly and horribly. I don't expect this to actually get traction. I believe, from my knowledge of Michigander politics, like, this is some posturing for, like, just a far-right audience in parts of the state. But within this bill, you know, is a really disturbing section, right? I'm just gonna, like, read you this. It's been pointed out over on Twitter. A depiction, description, or simulation, whether real, animated, digitally generated, written, or auditory, that includes a disconnection between biology and gender by an individual of one biological sex imitating, depicting, or representing himself or herself to be of the other biological sex by means of a combination of attire, cosmetology, or prosthetics, or as having a reproductive nature contrary to the individual's biological sex. And if you didn't follow along with that, basically within this anti-porn bill, like complete and utter porn ban, is a ban on just trans people existing on the internet. Because if you are a trans person and you post a selfie, well, in Michigan, that would be considered porn under this bill. You could be prosecuted under this bill. Like, this is one of the things that is being pushed. And this is kind of the point I'm trying to make here. That all of this talk about free speech is bullshit. They are doing it to achieve other ends. All of this talk about, like, well, you know, you need to limit some speech to protect the children. Think of the children. It's bullshit. Take some personal responsibility and, like, pay attention to what your kids are doing online. But the party of personal responsibility does not want to instill values of personal responsibility into their constituents. Instead, they want to legislate. And they will use that opportunity to try and legislate not just what they think should or must be said, but they will take the opportunity to try and legislate undesirable minorities out of public view. This is all spiraling quite fast. You know, we're in a weird time. The current administration is going to make strange bedfellows of all of us. Here is Tucker Carlson perhaps recognizing cynically that, oh wait, if they start prosecuting people for speech, I'm not necessarily as close to the in-group as I once was. This could be bad for me. Here he is talking about Pam Bondi saying that she's going to prosecute more hate speech.
Year of their lives. And so naturally, most of them believe it. When Charlie Kirk is shot in the throat with a .30-06 on camera, I doubt very many young Americans want to see something like that or actually applaud the death of a man, a father, a husband. But they've been told for their entire lives in schools exactly what Pam Bondi just told them. Well, there's free speech, but then there's also hate speech, and woe to those who engage in it because it's a crime. That's a lie. And it's a lie that denies the humanity of the people you're telling it about. And so any attempt to impose hate speech laws in this country, and trust me, there are a lot of people who would like them. There are a lot of people who'd like to codify their own beliefs by punishing those under the U.S. code who disagree with their beliefs. Any attempt to do that is a denial of the humanity of American citizens and cannot be allowed under any circumstances. That's got to be the red line.
I'm sorry, like, we're in some fucking bonkers times. When I talk about us being in the cool zone of just, like, crazy political possibilities right now of what is happening, this is what I mean. Like, Tucker Carlson is out there making arguments in favor of actual free speech. Karl Rove wrote, like, an op-ed in, like, the Wall Street Journal about the need to protect free speech. Like, we are deep in the abyss, 409. It's true. I'm getting online to defend Jimmy Kimmel. Like, this is bizarre, you know? And not only that, we are in a time where you all need to, like, start paying close attention to what you are saying on various social media platforms. Were you watching Hassan earlier? No. I don't typically have time to watch other content creators. But Ken Klippenstein wrote a couple of days ago, Charlie Kirk assassination sparks social media crackdown. And that's a pretty, benign, non-alarming title for this article. But as you actually, like, dig deeper into it, this is maybe one of the more disturbing things I've read recently, and why you all need to start taking your online security more seriously. And this is not me, like, transitioning into an ad read. This is me showing genuine concern for you guys, okay? 5 hours after Charlie Kirk was shot this week, an Atlanta man got a phone call from an Illinois police officer asking about a photo he shared with a couple of close friends on a private Discord chat. The Atlanta man, who had asked not to be identified, said the post was merely a confirmation that he had purchased the same t-shirt.
What could be her take?
Sake Tanuki, until right this very second, I had forgotten that her take existed. And I'm pretty sure Patrick Bet David had too. Is it still going? Are they still making episodes? Okay. But thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Let's see. The Atlanta man who asked not to be identified said the post was merely a confirmation that he had purchased the same t-shirt that the accused killer wore from an Illinois-based online shop. The police officer told him that he was following up on an active FBI investigation of Kirk's assassination and warned that due to the political climate, posting such a photo was ill-advised. The Atlanta man was confused and disturbed, he told me, that the police learned so quickly of his purchase and also knew of his private Discord post. Discord has made clear that there's no evidence that the alleged shooter used its platform to plan or communicate anything about the attack. Despite this, pundits and politicians across the political spectrum this weekend created an orgy of fear-mongering about Discord and other social media platforms, as well as the internet in general. Okay? But, like, just gonna go down here a little bit. Social media companies are generally forbidden by law from divulging users' private communications to the government without a traditional legal process. But there's an exception. In perceived emergencies, social media platforms can proactively and voluntarily hand over private messages in response to what's called an emergency disclosure request, an EDR. Discord, I am told, did not respond to any EDR here, but when I asked them directly if they'd provided law enforcement with information to traditional legal process, they declined to respond on record. As the Atlanta man recounted to me and corroborated with screenshots, on the afternoon of September 11th, he purchased the shirt off eBay from a seller based in Naperville, Illinois, before posting his ironic find in a private Discord chat with several close friends of his. The next day, he received 3 phone calls from police. He explains he is with the Naperville Police Department on behalf of what is an ongoing FBI investigation, the Atlanta man told me. That I committed no crimes and am in no trouble, but he needs to know why I sent a picture of the terrorist, which I had to correct him on. The police officer did not seem to realize that the Atlanta man hadn't posted a photo of the shooter, just another t-shirt with the same design. But the cop did know he'd sent an image in that private chat. Given that the call came from the same city as the eBay seller, it wasn't clear how the police had access to his private Discord chat. The FBI, or the intelligence community, evidently is monitoring Discord private messaging, even from people who have broken no law. So this is your, hey guys, they are, in fact, reading your Discord messages. When I tell you guys, don't Fed post, this is one of the reasons why. Okay? You gotta keep yourself safe. I know you guys might have a really funny joke, but, you gotta keep that offline. Organize offline in your local community. Okay? Don't be saying this shit online. If you must say it on, a slightly more secure messaging app. But, this is, they are, in fact, actually looking at your messages. And can, in a pinch, compel these companies to turn over your messages. So, that being said, of course, I want to talk about some of the other things that are going on here, right? Because we aren't quite at... Here's, by the way, the Karl Rove op-ed. They didn't kill Charlie Kirk. It insults his memory to blame political opponents for one man's heinous act. Jesus Christ, I did not have Karl Rove trying to, bring down political tensions in America on my bingo card. And fuck, man. It is discombobulating my brain a little bit. Here is David from The Atlantic. One of, again, not someone I would generally agree with here.
There's only one thing that matters. We had a threat of retaliation by a government official for someone not pronouncing government-commanded speech. There was an order from the state about what people must say. Jimmy Kimmel did not say that, and his corporation was threatened with consequences by a government official. This is not cancel culture, because it's not culture. It's state repression. It's an order from the government. Here's the script you must read. If you do not read it, you will be taken off the air. Jimmy Kimmel didn't read it. He was taken off the air. This cannot be, because he's a comedian, there'll be people who say, maybe we shouldn't take this as seriously. But here's the comparison I would suggest. When Paul Pelosi was brutally attacked, many, unfortunately, including the son of the former President Trump, made light of it. A terrible thing, heartbreaking, a terrible attack on an 82-year-old man. Imagine if the Biden administration had given a script and said, this is what everybody must say about Paul Pelosi. And if you don't say it, we will bring pressure to bear on your parent corporation to fire you. Greg Gutfeld at Fox, you're not sad enough about Paul Pelosi. You're not saying what we command to be said about Paul Pelosi. Therefore, unless Fox fires you, we are going to bring regulatory havoc to bear on the parent corporation. There's only one thing that matters.
I mean, that David Frum actually beautifully wraps up the entire thing with a little bow here. That's the dynamic at play. The state is writing your speeches for you. You know, in a lot of ways, what we're witnessing is the complete death and surrender of mainstream media. You know, mainstream journalism is compromised. And to a degree, it always has been, but we're in a new era of it now. Where, like, this is, you know, CBS, NBC, they need to be puppets of the state territory. It's time to do Weekend at Bernie's, but, you know, it's the state puppeteering media.
Say it on Signal and it will be leaked by Hersey by end of day.
Not really. Not wrong, Sake. And so all of this kind of brings me to what Donald Trump is up to today, right? And I think a lot of people are real worried about what is happening here. Here is one of his latest Truth Social posts. I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I'm designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And when you combine that with the fact that, like, the FBI can access your Discord chats, and then you start thinking about, wait, what does that mean? What does it mean for the state to designate opposition to fascism as a terrorist organization? Are your grandfathers terrorists now because they fought the Nazis in World War II? Because they parachuted behind enemy lines and taught civilians how to resist the fascists in actual anti-fascist organizations? Because a lot of you are already seeing the problem. There is no organized Antifa in the United States. There's not a national Antifa. There's barely local anti-fascist organizations, and to the extent that they exist online, it is bare bones and minimal, and they aren't receiving funding from any kind of national organizing apparatus. And as far as I am aware, to any extent there's any funding internally whatsoever, it's from just, like, you know, dudes lending each other $5 to go get coffee or something. We are seeing, like, the tools of state repression truly being brought to bear here. I do also want to point out here a couple of things, because one, this is scary, obviously. If you have half a brain and you are aware of any degree of history, this is worrying. But number two, there are, like, the president isn't able to unilaterally declare an organization a domestic terror organization. That's not a thing. Like, he doesn't have actual authority to do any of this, so there's a good chance that a lot of this is just theater for his base, jingling of the keys. And while that might be the case, it can still be also the case that it would result in very real harm and suffering upon working folks like you or me. And I also want to remind you guys of one other thing. He did this last time around too. He's done this already. He's already, like, been online posting about, hey, Antifa's a terrorist organization. He's already done this. He did this last time he was president. And I guess he's just announcing he's gonna do it again. He literally forgot. He forgot he did this already. Specifically because literally nothing came of it last time. I understand that there's a lot of really scary things happening right now. I understand that the tension is really high here in America. I understand that some people are suffering some very real effects of this Charlie Kirk speech crackdown, and that, like, seeing the state punish comedians is a bad sign of the times. But I've also been seeing people posting that, like, Donald Trump is now a true fascist dictator, and, like, absolutely by no means should you give him that much credit or power. Like, under no circumstances should you give this clown that much power. Like, the individual actions are scary. They add up to a pretty bleak picture. But also, are these the actions of a strong leader? Are these the actions of someone in a position of strength?
We legalized comedy.
Indeed, Liz Galahad. Thank you for the 3 tier 1 subs. No, I'm going to answer the question. No, these are not the actions of someone who is in a position of strength, who has just a majority of people behind him. This is somebody who has his lowest approval rating ever. This is someone who is hit an all-time low in how popular he is, and he's freaking out. And they are desperately trying to use Charlie Kirk's death cynically in order to, make something happen. And yes, Jura, he is a fascist. That is true. But he is a deeply unpopular fascist who has by no means consolidated the amount of power he needs in order to, truly hold on to that power for a long period. Lower than last time? Lower than last time in the aggregate, Liz Galahad. He's under by 17 points. New polling came out a couple days ago. We went over it yesterday. It's genuinely shocking.
The world's oldest profession birthed the world's second oldest profession, comedian. They had to tell someone how small it was.
Sake Tanuki, always full of bangers, even on dark, worrisome days. Never stop. Never stop. Yeah, guys, people are going to notice when 80% of foreign packages stop going to the United States. We've seen an 80% drop in packages coming into the country. We're seeing farmers begin to panic because they're realizing, hey, wait a minute, these mass deportations are killing our farms. We're seeing conservatives who rely on Medicaid going, hey, wait a minute, Medicaid is what I need to live. I meant to kick all those other people off of Medicaid. We're in the, oh no, we're getting hoisted on our own petard era of this, and people unsurprisingly are realizing they don't like being hoisted on their own petard.
I'd rather have 80% of foreign packages come here than go to Little St. James.
I would too, Sake Tanuki. Oh god. I'm concerned that when more ICE troops flood cities from Build Back Better, that will help him arrest more people and consolidate more power. I'm concerned about that too, Brooklyn, to Northwest.
Surely, Alex Jones will go on air soon to decry the Mockingbird media, Deep State, NWO, etc. Yup, any day now. Any day. Now, cricket emoji, cricket emoji.
Just an excellent use of crickets there, G. Klein. So, I guess what I'm getting at here, folks... Oh, Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs.
How did TNG never talk about someone hoisting themselves by their own Picard?
It really does seem... even if you think the TNG writing crew was above that, the Picard showrunners sure weren't. You would think that would have come up at some point in the writer's room for season 2 of Picard, right? Just saying. So, we are in bad times, for sure. Right? But those bad times are radicalizing, folks, against the person who is taking all the credit for making their lives worse, which is Donald Trump and the Republicans at large. Are we still doing the cool zone? Yeah, the cool zone doesn't mean the things that happen in the cool zone are cool. It's just a fun way of saying we're in a time of expanded political possibility. Well, and no, I agree. Donald Trump is not concerned about the polls per se, but rather what the polls represent, because people are making it very clear that they hate him. And this is a man who his entire life has been desperate to be loved. He's been desperate to be accepted in society. He's been desperate to be the cool guy. And this is a guy who went to the UK this week and is having pictures of him and Epstein projected on the side of castles that he's visiting. People hate this motherfucker for good reason. He's a terrible president, the worst we've ever had. And I guess all I'm saying is there is desperation here because people like J.B. Pritzker can shut down his ambitions to march troops through the streets of Chicago, and And so he's having to recalibrate, and he's all pissy about it. And like, I don't know. I think that what needs to come out of this, and what I've the conclusion I've come to about this is, who watches Jimmy Kimmel? Genuine question to you folks. Who watches Jimmy Kimmel? Who watches Stephen Colbert? Who are the main audiences for those? 40 plus. Acts of service. Exactly. 40 plus. You know, your wine moms. Your venerated, but feisty older folks. But the point I'm making here is, who are also the folks who have been, by and large, slow to be activated towards protest, towards, thinking things are gonna be generally okay. They just need to keep their heads down and go to work, etc. It's the centrists and the moderates, the 40 to 60-year-old demographic libs, and they are now all facing down a world where suddenly those voices that they watched for late night television every day, because that's the kind of audiences that these shows cultivate, suddenly they're gone. And these people are madder than hell. These people are madder than hell. So what I'm saying is, if you came up with a policy to activate politically the largest majority of your opposition that you could possibly think of, I mean, one way you could do it if you were a moron would be to go after their late night politics folks. These are household names. Even if you don't watch the shows that they put out, you know who Jimmy Kimmel is. You know who Stephen Colbert is. These are people who are not who are gonna nod along and maybe donate to a candidate under normal circumstances. These are not people who would typically go out to a protest. And these people have already been more activated than usual by this administration. Folks like my mom have been going out to protests already before the crackdowns on late night, politics folks. They are going to be spitting mad about this because all of these people watch Jimmy Kimmel and they know Jimmy Kimmel is not an offensive comedian. He is, in fact, aggressively bland. This is something that is actually so far-reaching in its scope that this actually is something that could activate some moderate conservatives and radicalize them to march alongside of libs. So, I guess all I'm trying to say right now is that there are a lot of reasons to doomer, but I think a lot of the underlying fundamentals are positive for us. Because we are seeing what I consider what we are seeing is liberals shaking off this idea that it's going to go back to business as usual. That we just need to get a Joe Biden candidate to get everything back to normal. And I think a lot of people are realizing that that is absolutely not possible. And that what we need to be looking for is not simply a return to normalcy, but a restoration and a rebuilding to something better.
Do you think moderates will also pay attention to how fanatical MAGA are like? Such as how they treat Trump and Kirk like deities to worship?
Yeah, I do think that right now they are paying more attention, Mackenzie L. But that's also why I put together that compilation, and I do want to try and put together just a compilation of the clips that I went over the other day of Charlie Kirk talking, just one clip after the other without my commentary. Because I think a lot of those moderates, a lot of those centrists, a lot of those liberals have no idea what Charlie Kirk said, and that runs the risk of them falling into believing that Kirk is everything that the MAGA movement is saying he was. I think that this might be good, in a sense. The act itself is not good, but I think that this is going to be a slap in the face to every liberal who is still maintaining an idea that we're going to get back to normal. It is a slap in the face of every single liberal or every single like not political person who is like, well, I don't do politics, but I don't like that. Like, well, too bad. You're gonna have to get familiar with politics.
That Trump is
you know?
making a big, beautiful ballroom that hasn't existed for 150 years?
I have heard about the big, beautiful ballroom. There are gonna be so many balls in there. Gonna be so many balls.
One of my
it's a real
favorite
cockfest.
TikTokers started to mobilize her 190K following to campaign against ABC, Disney.
Good. That's wonderful. Lily loves stuff. I don't know anything about TikTok.
Removed Jimmy Kimmel from his show for saying word for word what just happened last week. And the executives admitted he didn't do anything wrong, but they're scared of this administration attacking them. And I'm sick of these cowards, and we're going to fight back, and this is what we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to boycott these shows and use this hashtag. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to cancel your Disney Plus subscription. And the third thing you're going to do is this. You're going to type ABC support into Google and click the first result. You're going to click submit programming feedback. You're going to fill this out. And these are the options I put. And then here, you're going to let them have it. Are you in Burbank, California, or New York City? Well, guess what? ABC headquarters are there. Picket them, protest them, show up. Because what this administration and its allies are doing is overwhelming us with bad news after bad news after bad news so that we stay in a fear response and don't fight back. And guess what? I am scared. But you might as well do something scared than not do anything at all. There is such low support amongst the general population for all of the actions that have been happening over the past week that they want to erase that. They want you to feel like you cannot do anything, and that's why they are overwhelming you. And it's on purpose. He did this all the time during his first administration. And guess what? People broke through the fear. They forced themselves through the fear, and they went to protest, and they spoke out, and they took action, and they organized while they were scared. And I'm done being paralyzed with fear.
Excellent suggestions. I'm going to link that in all of our other chats as well. And I want to also play this clip of J.B. Pritzker. Because now that Tim Walz is out of the running for 2028, now we have to turn to our other big lad.
She hits you with a hijab. She hits you with a low jack.
God damn it, Sake! Fuck. That was really good. God damn it. God damn, that was good. Thank you. Oh, God.
You said, and you never hold back, and what's one of the things I always love to talk to you about, you said that politicians, people should be speaking up, and this is an undemocratic act. People are just digesting this. It's a part of a pattern. What does that look like? What is the kind of pressure you think politicians or people watching right now could?
I'm sorry, I'm just noticing this. Is Jen Psaki just like tiny as hell? Like her feet are on a box. What is it? What? Okay, all right.
Put on ABC or Disney or others about this?
Well, first, everybody should be saying that ABC should reverse their decision. This is not something they should have been doing. I don't think that ABC, at least historically, has not been an organization that has exhibited this kind of behavior. But, you know, now we're seeing the pressure that can be brought by the federal government. You can imagine the pressure that's on Disney and ABC and on their business based upon, well, what's been said so far today. And so I must say, I do not understand why people are not standing up and pushing back when they ought to. Because what's at stake here is free speech. It's our Constitution and our way of life. Do we really want the President of the United States intimidating people, organizations to get others fired? This is not that moment. People ought to be standing up and speaking out. What can they do? Well, it's what I've been saying for some time now, which is if we want to get action, we now can't rely upon a MAGA-controlled Congress. We can't rely on the President of the United States, seemingly, although we'll see whether we can rely on the Supreme Court of the United States. Increasingly, it doesn't appear that way. And so we only have one other thing to do, which is public action. people actually speaking up, speaking out, boycotting, showing up and protesting, and their representatives who agree with them doing the very same.
You said
our big lad. He speaks the truth. Was that yes, that was mine. I'm sorry. I restarted my computer and it unmuted the system sounds. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, chat. But he speaks the truth. The only way out of this is organizing.
Jin is 4 feet 11 inches.
Oh, she's literally under 5 feet tall. Okay. You know, we stand short queens too. He's not wrong. What we have left in terms of like defensive bureaucratic apparatuses are state governments. And if you don't live in a government where you're in a state where your government is willing to go to bat for you, then you have your city government and the organizations you have locally. He is speaking truthfully, and that's both positive, that someone who is potentially in the running to be president understands the dynamic and is willing to articulate it. But it's also worrisome because that is precious little protection. That is precious little protection. And that's why I am increasingly trying to ring the bell. Folks, organize. This isn't just something I say to fill up time in segments. I do mean it. Organize. Organize.
It blows my mind that Jen Psaki was the last competent non-grifting for a book deal White House correspondent.
It is kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Very much appreciated. But folks, y'all need to get organized. And if you don't know where to start, you can start by looking at what are your local Democrats doing? What are your local DSA members doing? What are your local, like, homeless shelters doing? What are your local food not bombs shelters doing? Not shelters, organizations doing. What are your local, what does it look like for your working families party? Okay? If you are interested in organizing and being part of the group that is going to make your city, your neighborhood, your state safe, join our Discord. Reach out to Gamergy if you want to join DSA. Reach out to Dragonfly if you want to get involved with your local Dems. And I promise you guys, this is what we need. We need people organizing, like actually doing the work, actually going to the meetings, actually doing the shit. Much like in the past, there was an entire group of libs who would sit and watch late night television and who would nod along when a late night comedian made jokes about the administration and their failures. They'd nod along, and then maybe they'd donate to a couple political campaigns. We are well beyond when that is useful for us right now. We are well beyond that. Liberals understand this, by the way, and if they didn't, they understand it after today, that they need to get active. They need to go to protests. They need to start going to the meetings. If libs understand it, so should you. You have a higher duty to get involved now. If your liberal wine moms can show the fuck up and start organizing locally, so can you. All right? Like, I'm not asking you to lay down your lives for one another. I'm asking you to go to some meetings, take some notes. Learn how your local city government works. Go to your local groups, your local meetings, make new friends. It is something that will make your life more fun, more fulfilling, and it will give you a sense that you are doing something positive and productive. Because you are. How do we do this in rural hellscapes? Even in rural hellscapes, there are democratic organizations. There are democratic parties. There are DSA branches in rural areas of the country. You know, like, here's an example, right? Here is the man who was running against Joni Ernst.
Out of Iowa.
In Iowa. Even if you're in the middle of rural America, you can find people who agree with you. And guess what? Joni Ernst ain't running for office anymore.
Iowa, a surprise challenger, Democrat Nathan Sage, Marine, Army vet, mechanic, sports radio host, taking on scandal-ridden, corporate-funded Joni Ernst.
I never thought someone like me could run for Senate. When I was 5, my dad got arrested for a bounce check, $50. He was trying to pay for new school clothes for my sister and I. We grew up poor, but I still believed in this country. So I enlisted again and again. 8 years. We were attacked by mortars and rockets more times than I can count. By the grace of God, I made it home. Now I'm the executive director of the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce, one of the many places that's being abandoned, hurt by corporations, billionaires, and the politicians they own. There's a war at home, and we're losing. Unions under attack. Farmers f***ed over. People working nonstop just to survive. Too busy to enjoy life. People like my dad are spending their life slaving away in factories, only to die of cancer caused by those same corporations. The economy is rigged, and those in power don't give a damn. They're the ones doing it. Only 2% of Congress come from the working class. We built the damn table. It's time we had a seat at it. I'm fighting for a Democratic Party that people like me will actually want to be a part of. People like my dad, myself, my kids, all the people like us. The DC elites, the ruling class, they don't want me, but I think maybe you will. I'm Nathan Sage, dad, mechanic, sports radio host, vet, child of a trailer park in Iowa. And I'm going to kick corporate Republican Joni Ernst's ass next November.
If you are like, oh, I live in the middle of a rural hellscape in America, I guarantee you there are other people out there in your neck of the woods who are working to make it not a hellscape, who are working to restore dignity to working people in that area. You know, we have people in this chat, multiple people in this chat, who are members of like rural Democratic county, boards for the Democratic Party. You know, they are out there doing the work, trying to build some kind of organization. And I guarantee you, those people would welcome with open arms anyone who wants to go in there and try and make something better. Anyone who walks in, who has ideas, who's willing to like knock on doors and phone bank in rural America. Do you guys have any idea how much influence? Like, if you just have on average, like 10 people come with you to like a door knocking event, you're like a goddamn rock star. You have no idea how much above your weight you punch with just 10 people. When you're talking about a rural area, if you get 10 people together to like knock doors, it's nuts the amount of impact you can have by getting involved in the local level. So the solution to our problems, folks, organize. Organize, organize, organize.
I was welcomed into the vast rural network of the Upper West Side.
Upper West Side. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Bringing us up to 127. Very nice. Does door knocking even work anymore? Yes. Door knocking works. Phone banking works. Yes, it does. People showing up at your door to tell you about a political candidate and remind you what day the election is, it does indicate a level of confidence and importance that convinces people to go out to the polls, you know? And again, you're not like knocking on doors to like debate someone into voting. You're knocking on doors to remind well-meaning people. You're knocking on doors to talk to people who haven't made up their minds and maybe present them with an argument that it sounds good to them, you know? I don't see an email from DSA about an emergency meeting. Maybe it's a local one but organize, folks. There's hope in all corners of America. What if you knock and it's immediately apparent they are hard far right? Then you thank them for their time, and then you walk away and you knock on the next house. You know, you're just like, hey, do you know that the election is on blank and blank a day? And they're like, no, or yeah. And you're like, okay, have a nice day. And then you just walk like and continue on your way. You're not out there by yourself. You're out there with a group of people, It's more fun if you take a friend and go together, and then it's basically just taking a walk and occasionally knocking on a door. Also, they aren't just sending you into the heart of like MAGA country to like knock on doors. They're sending you to like places in order to like rally known left-leaning voters, you know? Door knocking is a numbers game. You're not trying to find a date. It's getting people to remember to go vote. Exactly. And yes, some people have horror stories about door knocking, but the vast majority of door knocking goes smoothly. It's not full of like people like brandishing guns or anything like that. It's not scary. Yeah, genuinely you meet some very cool people and occasionally a total jerk. Yeah, that is kind of the name of the game. It's true, you can sign up to volunteer to door knock and phone bank with Progressive Victory. You can do that. Another way to organize. Many ways to organize. Our Minneapolis trans support group pushed for it and got trans panic defense prohibited with help from our trans representative, Leigh Fink. Yeah, again, it doesn't have to be your local Dems. It doesn't have to be your local, like, DSA. It doesn't have to be your local soup kitchen. But, like, find a group of, like-minded folks who are cool and chill and willing to work with you for a common goal. You know, that's the name of the game. I just want you guys to be active in that way. But it should be your local DSA. Yeah, ideally your local DSA should be doing these things, but you know, if they're not, you know, I don't blame anyone who's doing like other organizing in the community. Renters unions, yeah, tenants unions are really, really cool. I'm afraid of my community. I've seen them. Well, that's why you do phone banking. You know, if you're too afraid to do door knocking, do phone banking. It's even easier. Could I organize my local D&D group? Yes, you can absolutely organize your local D&D group. Getting a bunch of like tabletop nerds to like go develop even better social skills and also like do something that betters the community. Massive win. Yeah. Roll your goddamn initiatives and get to work. So anyway, yes, there are all kinds. Yeah, make it a side quest. If they go door knocking, they level up. You know, their character gets an additional level. They get one use of the wish spell. You guys can talk about how they're going to use it as you're door knocking. So there are a bunch of different ways you can organize. I'm just asking you guys to find one and then do that. One of the reasons I've been advocating for people to get involved in DSA and in your local Dems is because you can do like local political organizing, and you can also get involved in additional efforts to affect like laws or protections or get involved in protests, etc. as well. Like it's a way to connect with a lot of different issues. But you know, like if you're just organizing in a different group, that's also fine. I just am sick of these. I'm sick of these establishment Dems, and I want them out of office because fuck Chuck Schumer. That's why. Do you have any recommendations for balancing college, a job, and getting involved? Genuinely, really want to get more politically active and do more for my community, but I'm not great at balancing times. Oh boy, I am also not great at that. My recommendation would be see if you can leverage getting involved as a way to further either your job or college. Some colleges offer like credit for being involved in like extracurricular groups, and maybe you could spin it that way and get college credit for volunteering. You know, mileage on that might vary, but look into different programs your university might have. Also, maybe instead look at getting your job organized, like how to unionize
if you're just
your
a troll
workplace.
By nature, you can totally just join an organization you hate and sabotage them. Disorganizing works.
It's true. Oh, I'm sorry, Sarge. I'm sorry. You said we had to go round up some immigrants. Oh, Sarge, you sent us out there, and I went and rounded up my in-grants. That's right, Sarge. I went and got them. If you don't know what they are, Sarge, they're from the game Destiny. I got those in-grams. I'm sorry, Sarge. I misunderstood. I spent 60 hours grinding, Sarge. Anyway, I'll need that, I'll need my check, Sarge. I'll need it a little bit early, because I'm in a lot of debt. I bought a lot of in-game items, Sarge. I'm in deep trouble. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Sarge, you said we had to run him down, so I went out there and I ran as fast as I could, but I misunderstood, Sarge, because I was playing that new anime girl racing game. And I was really fast in the game, Sarge, but I wasn't real fast in real life. You should try that. You should try that at open night at a comedy club. I feel like I need more than just a one-note character. Is the joke that the ICE agent is incompetent or intentionally sabotaging the operation? Yes. The Hare Rara of cops? What is this Sarge reference? It's a character I came up with the other day called the Nice Officer, which is somebody who joined up with ICE, who is either just grossly incompetent and or deliberately incompetent in order to harm no one and just bathe in those sweet, sweet ICE dollars. Oh boy, the segment ended a while ago. I forgot to officially end it. We're done with the segment, everybody. We did it. Sarge, I was listening when you said the other day that we're not those kinds of officers. So I took your advice and I got really good at knots, Sarge. And I knotted all of our shoelaces together, so when we all left the precinct, we all tripped at the same time, and I'm so sorry, Sarge, I misunderstood.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.